Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sherlock Holmes. Now I know a lot of you use these videos to sleep, so before you drift off I thought it would be a fun idea if everyone can leave a comment to let me know where you are listening from in the world. Also like and subscribe if you are enjoying the case, right? Let's get comfy and relax and let's begin. Story 1, Lauren William. Heaven fostered a newborn baby girl during the summer of 1994. They named her Erin, and she became an integral part of the household from the moment she entered their lives. Lauren Williams showered her with affection, ensuring she received the same love and care as their biological children. Over the years, Erin developed a strong bond with her foster sisters. They formed a tight-knit family unit supporting and encouraging each other. The Heaven saw something special in Erin and knew that she belonged with them. When Erin turned 3 years old, Lauren William made the momentous decision to adopt her. They recognized the unique bond they had formed and wanted to make sure that Erin had a stable and loving home in which to grow up. The adoption process was finalized and Erin officially became a Heaven. Growing up, Erin was a shy and reserved girl. She often found it difficult to express herself and connect with others on a social and emotional level. However, she had one passion that brought her comfort: horses. Erin discovered a love of horses at a young age. She had a natural connection with animals and knew riding them allowed her to be her true self. The East Tennessee Riding Club became a haven for Erin where she could escape daily life's pressures and expectations at the riding club. Erin found a sense of belonging and camaraderie. The horses provided a non-judgmental and understanding environment, allowing her to explore her emotions and discover her inner strength. Erin spent hours in the stables, grooming and riding horses, and she found solace in the tranquility of the equestrian world. Lauren William had strict rules for their daughters growing up, especially when it came to dating. When Erin met John Corwin, she immediately knew that she had found someone special. John was kind, respectful, and genuine about getting to know Erin better. However, Erin was aware of the strict rules her parents had in place, so she hesitated to introduce John to her family. After much consideration, Erin decided to tell John about her parents' standards. She knew that if they were ever to become a couple, they would need their permission. John understood the importance of respecting Erin's parents' wishes, so he boldly reached out to Lauren William. Lauren William were pleasantly surprised when John asked their permission to date their daughter. They appreciated his willingness to adhere to their values and understand the importance of family. After meeting with John, they were impressed by his respectful demeanor and genuine interest in getting to know the Heaven family over time. John won over Lauren William and became an integral part of the family. He respected their TR traditions, supported them in difficult times, and became a part of their everyday life. John quickly became a trusted and loved member of the Heaven household. As Erin and John grew closer, their relationship blossomed. They became an official couple, and it felt like John was more than just her boyfriend. He was now a part of their family. John fit right in with the Heaven sisters, spending quality time with them and creating lasting memories. After graduating from high school, John decided to enlist in the Marines. He had a strong sense of duty and a desire to serve his country on Erin's 18th birthday. John surprised her with a proposal. It was a mix of excitement and nervousness for him, as he dropped to one knee and asked the question he had been longing to ask. Erin's face lit up with joy as she excitedly yelled, yes. Lauren William were overjoyed for their daughter. They believed in the strength of their relationship and knew that John was Erin's right choice. However, they also understood the sacrifices and challenges that came with being a military spouse. They worried for their daughter, knowing there would be times where she would be apart from her family, and they would miss her dearly. Erin and John married in Las Vegas after the Marine Corps ball. After John had completed basic Marine training, he was assigned to the 29 Palms Marine Base in the Mojave Desert in California in 2013. While attending the base, Erin and John found out they were expecting their first child. Unfortunately, just a few months later, they lost the baby. The news hit Erin and JN hard, but was especially difficult for Erin. During this time, John did his best to support and comfort her. Despite the setback, Erin was determined to expand their family and told John she was ready to try again when it was safe. For months after losing the baby, Erin decided to take a pregnancy test. To her surprise and joy, The results were positive, excited, and anxious to share the news. Erin decided to wait until her mother's upcoming visit to California in June. She believed seeing Laura's reaction in person would make it more meaningful and memorable. In addition to announcing the pregnancy, Erin and Laura planned to visit several attractions in San Diego, including SeaWorld and the zoo. They were looking forward to spending time together and creating new memories. The mother and daughter planned to take hikes through Joshua Tree National Park to scout hiking trails. For when her mother visited, Erin decided to visit the national park on June 28th. Before she left, she said goodbye to her husband John and said, "I love you." JN expected Erin to be home by late afternoon, but as time went on, she failed to return. John became increasingly worried as hours passed without any word from his wife. He called over 50 times, but his phone went unanswered the following morning on June 29th. John called Laura, Erin's mother, at her home in Tennessee. He explained to Laura that Erin had never come home the previous day. Laura was initially concerned for her daughter's well-being, especially due to her pregnancy and the heat. She feared that Erin had gotten lost in the park and worried because she wasn't sure how much water Erin had brought with her. John contacted the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department to report his missing pregnant wife. He informed the authorities about Erin's last known whereabouts and requested their assistance locating her. The detective assigned to Erin's case was contemplating whether Erin had driven to Tennessee to visit her mother. However, Laura adamantly denied the possibility, stating that Erin had an intense dislike for driving, had a terrible sense of direction, and was too excited about Laura visiting her in California and their planned trip to SeaWorld. In an effort to find Erin, John and his Marine friends headed to Joshua Tree National Park. Joshua Tree Park is an over 800,000-acre expanse of rugged terrain and open desert, which presented significant challenges for the search. Moreover, the end of June brought scorching temperatures, making the search even more difficult as the detective investigated Erin's disappearance. He delved into the state of Erin and John's marriage on the surface. They appeared to be the perfect American couple, but the detective soon discovered that appearances can be deceiving. The truth was that Erin and John's marriage had been strained. Since Erin lost their baby after losing their child, Erin's mental health took a severe downturn. She spiraled into a deep depression that affected every aspect of her life, including her relationship with JN. Further investigation uncovered that Aon and John were facing financial strain in their marriage. The detective learned that the couple was struggling with accumulated debt. This economic strain undoubtedly contributed to the tension in their relationship during the investigation. The detective learned that Erin had formed a close bond with Chris and Nicole. Chris, like John, was also a Marine, which initially brought them together. However, more than just their shared military background connected the couples. Erin and Nicole shared a passion for horses, bringing them closer. Nicole Lee introduced Erin to White Rock Horse Ranch Rescue. About 45 minutes from their military base in 29 Palms, the ranch provided an opportunity for Erin to escape her troubles and find solace in the peaceful surroundings. As Erin's relationship with John deteriorated, she began to grow even closer to Chris. The detective discovered that Chris, who had recently returned from Afghanistan, also faced his struggles and demons. This shared experience of loss, coupled with the emotional connection they had formed through horses, created a unique bond between them. Erin's love for Chris and Nicole's 6-year-old daughter, Liberty, also played a crucial role in their relationship. She often babysat the little girl, providing her with a loving and nurturing environment, further cementing Erin's connection with Chris and his family. Erin and Chris would spend hours working at the horse ranch together, and at first it seemed harmless. However, as time passed, Erin and Chris began to give off a romantic vibe which caught the attention of Nicole, Chris's wife, and she approached John, Erin's husband, to inform him that she had seen signs of an affair between Erin and Chris. John was devastated to learn that Erin had been unfaithful to him. Despite feeling betrayed, JN remained committed to his marriage with Erin. He realized he loved her deeply and wanted to find a way to make things work. As a result, Erin ended her relationship with Chris and reconciled with John. However, further investigation into Aon's disappearance revealed a different story. Detectives discovered that Aaron and Chris were still in a romantic relationship. This information came from a close friend of Aaron's named Jessica. According to Jessica, on the day Aaron disappeared, she had informed her about a special trip she planned to take with Chris. Aaron told Jessica that she didn't know what Chris was planning. Jessica informed detectives that Aaron dropped hints suggesting that Chris might be proposing. Even though she was already married and pregnant with John's child, however, the most shocking revelation came when Jessica divulged that Aaron had expressed uncertainty regarding the identity of the biological father of her unborn baby. This revelation shattered John's heart, and the situation was exacerbated when detectives informed him of Aaron's plan to meet Chris the day she disappeared. The news left John in a state of sadness, knowing that he was now being eyed as a potential suspect in Aaron's disappearance. John adamantly denied having any involvement in her disappearance, maintaining his innocence on June 28th. The day Aaron went missing, a woman driving near the entrance to Joshua Tree Park noticed a car parked on the side of the road as she drove in the opposite direction. She noticed the car was still there. This woman became suspicious and decided to take action. She took several photos of the vehicle, hoping to document any potential evidence. 2 days later, on June 30th, another person who saw the car still parked outside Joshua Tree National Park entrance reported it to the police when the officers arrived. They checked the vehicle's registration. To their surprise, the registration came back as belonging to Erin Corwin, the woman who had captured the car's photo on June 28th. Also played a significant role in the case. She decided to turn over those images to detectives, hoping they could use them for the investigation. The detectives investigating Aaron's disappearance focused on where her car was parked at the entrance to Joshua Tree Park. Upon examining the scene, they noticed a peculiar set of shoe impressions forming a loop from the driver's side door to a spot where there was visible tire tracks. This discovery led the detectives to believe that Aaron drove to this location, parked her vehicle, and got into another car. Chris claims that he only knew Aaron a little bit, but the detectives were aware that they had been involved in an extramarital affair. The detectives confronted Chris about his statements, questioning why he lied about his relationship with Aaron. He explained that at the time he didn't think it was necessary to divulge every detail to the police, as he believed that it wasn't relevant to the case. However, Chris eventually admitted to having a romantic relationship with Aaron. Despite what Chris was telling them, the detectives did not believe him. The detectives told Chris they had evidence that on the day Aaron disappeared, she went to Joshua Tree National Park to meet him. Chris admitted that he and Aaron had discussed running away together. However, he insisted that he was never actually serious about it. His reason was his love for his 6-year-old daughter, Liberty. He stated that he would never consider abandoning her. Chris initially denied inviting her to go to the park with him and said Aaron overheard him discussing his plans to visit the area. He concocted a story about her being asked to go. The detectives, lacking concrete evidence against Chris, resorted to bluffing by telling him that they matched tire tracks found at the entry of the park to his vehicle, implying that he was the one who met with Aaron that day. Upon hearing this, Chris appeared nervous and admitted to the detectives that he might have entered the area where Aaron had parked her car. However, he insisted that it was after Aaron had left the spot. He claimed that he never saw her on the day she vanished. The detectives then focused on White Rock Horse Ranch, where Aaron spent significant time caring for the horses. They spoke to the owner, who informed them that on the day Aaron disappeared, Chris' wife Nicole sent a text message stating that Chris would not be showing up for work at the ranch that day because he was sick. However, when Chris and Nicole returned to the ranch the following morning, they appeared tense and uneasy when the news spread of Aaron's disappearance. The owner told the detectives Nicole expressed her belief that Aaron was faking her disappearance for attention and sympathy. During the investigation, the detectives discovered that Chris and his family were planning to return to Alaska as soon as he was nearing the end of his military service. The owner of White Rock Horse Ranch allowed Chris and Nicole to use her SUV to transport some of their belongings for their move. She also gave the detectives access to search the vehicle after Aaron was reported missing. Investigators came across a potato launcher inside the SUV, which was considered an illegal weapon in California. This discovery provided probable cause for the detectives to arrest Chris. However, he was released on bail on July 5, 2014. 1 week after his release, he was discharged from the Marines. In the meantime, the search for Aaron continued in San Bernardino County when he took a polygraph examination. John Corwin, Aaron's husband, was cleared of suspicion, which determined that he was truthful. By that point in the investigation, the detectives believed that Chris had lured Aaron to Joshua Tree National Park, where he murdered her and disposed of her body in one of the mine shafts. A lucky break came in the days after Aaron's disappearance when a friend who went with Chris on the mine scouting mission before the incident showed detectives the images he took during that trip with these images in hand. Detectives recruited a cave expert to examine the photos. This cave expert narrowed down the spot where the pictures were taken in the Mojave Desert. The expert claimed that the location was the Rose Peru mine, but there were several mines in that area, meaning that Aaron's remains could be in any of them. Determined to find any trace of Aaron, a massive search of the Rose Peru mine began. The search lasted for weeks, with the detectives meticulously examining every corner of the desert in search of any clues. Despite their best effort, the search yielded no positive results. As the search continued, the detectives remained hopeful that they would find closure and bring justice to Aaron on August 14, 2014. As the search continued for the missing woman, a member of the San Bernardino Cave Rescue Team detected a stench of gas emanating from a mine. The rescue team immediately dispatched a member down the mine shaft to determine the source of the gas smell. Upon closer examination inside of the mine, they discovered a human leg. With the discovery of the leg, the rescue team wasted no time in removing the body from the mine. Alongside the body, several items of evidence were recovered, including a makeshift torch made from a skirt, a propane tank, and a bottle of Sprite. These objects provided crucial clues in the investigation. Once the body was recovered, it was transported to the medical examiner's office for examination. Upon examining the remains, the medical examiner discovered that the remains belonged to Aon and Corwin. Further investigation revealed that she had a garrote wire wrapped around her neck, which indicated that the cause of death was strangulation. A garrote is a weapon or tool designed to restrict airflow by putting pressure on the throat or windpipe. It typically consists of a handle or handle-like structure attached to a wire cord or other flexible material. The implement is wrapped around the victim's neck or other parts of the body, applying pressure that restricts or cuts off the oxygen supply. Based on the evidence found at the scene, an arrest warrant was issued for Chris Lee. Charges of first-degree murder were brought against him in relation to Corwin's disappearance and murder during the trial. Several witnesses came forward to testify about Lee's interest in learning how to dispose of a body. In the weeks leading up to Corwin's disappearance, their statements strengthened the prosecution's case. One of Chris Liu's friends recalled seeing a white propane tank in his car, similar to the one discovered with Aaron Corwin's body. This friend asked Chris why he had a propane tank, and Chris reportedly replied that he was going to blow up a mine. Another witness, a close friend of Aon's, testified that Aaron was in love with Chris and was planning on leaving her husband John for him. On the day Aaron went missing, she was said to be excited about her special trip to Joshua Tree National Park with Chris. During Chris's trial, the prosecution called a DNA expert from the crime lab to testify regarding evidence found at the scene. The expert testified that the green TE t-shirt used to create the homemade torch found beside Aaron's body in the mine had Chris Lee's DNA on it. This expert further informed the jury that the swab from the mouth of the Sprite bottle found beside Aaron's body tested positive for DNA, and both Aaron and Chris's DNA were found. The prosecution's theory in the Aaron Corwin murder case was that Chris Lee took her to Joshua Tree National Park under the guise of a romantic trip, but his intentions were sinister. According to the prosecution, Chris met Aaron at the entrance of the park and persuaded her to get into his car. However, instead of heading towards scenic viewpoints or hiking trails, he drove her to the Rose Peru mines. Once there, Chris allegedly strangled Aaron with a garrote and dropped her body down the shaft. He then tried to dispose of any evidence by blowing up the mine using a homemade torch, which he created using his t-shirt and a propane tank. The intent was to destroy both Aaron's body and any potential evidence that could link her to Chris. However, Chris decided to not follow through with his plan. For some reason, it was not clear why he did not proceed with the explosion. Chris Lee took the stand in his own defense. He informed the jury that he had always planned to leave the United States Marine Corps by June 2014. This decision was driven by his desire to move on and start a new chapter in his life. Additionally, Chris revealed that he intended to end his relationship with Aaron and relocate to Alaska, where his wife and daughter would accompany him, according to Chris, on June 28th. He had planned a hunting trip for himself and Aaron. The purpose of this outing was to create an opportunity for them to have an honest conversation. Chris stated that he had picked Aaron up from the park's entrance and driven to the Rose Peru mine, a secluded area known for its natural beauty. However, Chris claimed that Aaron had reservations about the safety and location of the mine. As a result, she elected to remain in the car while Chris unloaded his supplies from the truck. Chris testified that he returned to his car where Aaron was listening to music, which allowed them to engage in conversation during their conversation. Chris informed Aaron about his decision to relocate to Alaska with his family. In response to this news, Aaron expressed her desire to accompany him. She emphasized the importance of being in his daughter's life. However, Chris had a different perspective on the situation. He informed the jury that his wife, Nicole, had discovered that their daughter was being sexually abused. Chris believed that Aaron was responsible while sitting in the car near the mine. Chris confronted Aaron with the question of whether she had touched his daughter inappropriately. According to Chris, Aaron became visibly nervous and started to stutter as she confessed that she had indeed abused his daughter. This revelation left Chris deeply concerned and upset, prompting him to protect his daughter during his testimony. Chris admitted to the jury that he became filled with anger and hate towards Aaron upon learning of the abuse. Driven by his concern for his daughter's well-being, he testified that he got out of his truck and searched for his garrote, a strangulation device driven by his intention to punish Aaron for hurting his daughter. He strangled her to death after killing Aaron. Chris took her body and dragged it into the mine shaft. He then proceeded to push her into the mine, ensuring she would never be found. Chris Lee was found guilty of Aaron Corwin's murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. John Corwin, Aaron's husband, firmly denies Chris Lee's allegation that Aaron abused Chris and Nicole's daughter. The detectives and prosecutor involved in investigating Aaron's case have also expressed their disgust at Chris's claims, stating that everyone who knew Aaron knew she was incapable of harming that little girl. Story. History, the news, and the internet are filled with some heinous crime stories involving close relations. Murder stories always shock a person more than other crimes, and if the murder involves a partner killing another, then the story gets even more horrifying. The story of Jennifer and Abby Black is one such story, and the person at the center of this story was none other than Jennifer's husband, Michael Black. So what happened to Jennifer Black and her daughter, Abby? Where did they go, and how was Michael Black involved in all this? Watch the story until the end to find out the answers to all these questions and some of the most horrific details of a crime that sent shockwaves across the nation. Jennifer grew up in Oklahoma and was raised by a single mother and also had a brother named David. Although from a humble background, Jennifer had a good childhood. She completed high school and went on to study business at San Diego National University. Her friends described her as a very sweet woman. One thing very dear and important to Jennifer was her faith. Whenever she thought about marriage, the first quality of a good husband that came to her mind was his attachment to religion. She wanted to spend her life with a good Christian man. Unfortunately, her husband would be the exact opposite of who Jennifer wanted to marry. Jennifer met 25-year-old Michael Black at a party. In 1988, he was a helicopter pilot in the U.S. Navy and was stationed in San Diego. Those days, Michael was brought up in a family that moved a lot because his father was a colonel in the Air Force. He was an incredibly well-behaved child and was extremely intelligent and hardworking. He always got good grades in school and excelled in co-curricular activities. Michael was so smart that he got into the governor's honor program and went to Georgia Tech to study nuclear engineering. During his degree, Michael enlisted in the Navy so he could afford college and complete his higher studies. Jennifer was quickly drawn into him because he seemed to place the same emphasis on faith as she did. The two started meeting frequently, and Michael appeared to be a great family man to Jennifer, who she thought would provide for her and their kids. Jennifer and Michael got married in 1991, while it was Jennifer's first marriage. Michael had already been in a marriage before, but it had lasted only a year. and he parted ways with his first wife. After some time, Michael Black retired from the Navy and started a career as an engineer. The Black family moved to Simpsonville, South Carolina, and welcomed a baby girl into their home who was named Abby Jennifer. Loved being in Simpsonville, the Black family made new friends through their church, and Jennifer started teaching a woman's Bible study group. Michael also became a co-tier at the Bible school. Jay had found a strong and take-charge person in Michael, which she loved. He was very caring and protective of her. However, according to Jennifer's friends, her behavior suggested otherwise. At some occasions, she would get nervous and often panicked as Michael's time to return home came close. Jennifer always focused on keeping the house in perfect condition so Michael could have her environment when he came back from work. Despite all this, the Black family seemed happy and Jennifer was really loving being in Simpsonville. But then Michael found a new job as operations manager in a manufacturing plant in Grand Junction, Colorado. Jennifer didn't want to leave her happy routine in Simpsonville, but she had to because she also wanted to be a dutiful wife to Michael. Things took a complete turn after the Black family moved to Grand Junction. Jennifer started seeming unhappy, and one could easily tell something was wrong in her personal life. The year was 2001 when the Black family moved to Colorado. Jennifer was 34 years old, and Abby was just 6 when the family moved to their new home. Just a few months into their new home, an incident happened that shocked the whole community in Grand Junction on November the 13th, 2001. Michael Black left for work early in the morning. This is his normal routine. He would leave early and come back in the evening because of his protective nature. He would call his wife multiple times throughout the day to check if she and his daughter Abby were okay. But on this particular day, when he called home after reaching the office, no one picked up the phone. It was quite strange since Jennifer always answered Michael's calls. He waited a while for Jennifer's call before calling his home number again to check on her again. No one picked it up, worried about the safety of Jennifer and Abby. Michael left a voicemail saying, "Man, where are you guys? Hope everything's going okay. I love you guys." When there was no response or news of Jennifer and Abby after a few hours of trying to contact them, Michael decided to leave the office early and go check on his family. As soon as he got home, he called 911 and reported that both his wife and daughter were missing. He also told the operator that there was blood all over the master bedroom of their house. The law enforcement authorities rushed to Michael's home. When the police officers entered the couple's bedroom, they found a huge amount of blood spilled in it. A jeweler box was also tipped upside down in the bedroom, and Jennifer's purse was dumped on the floor with its contents spread throughout the room, initially believed to be a kidnapping case. The officers quickly changed their minds because of the blood quantity they found in the bedroom. Kidnappings don't have a large amount of blood on the crime scene, so the authorities knew there was another aspect to this story. Other than the amount of blood, its placement was also strange. The blood was only on the bed. The walls in the hallway were absolutely clean. There weren't any drag marks in the house either. While the investigation team was looking for a murderer, Michael appeared to believe his wife and daughter had been kidnapped and were still alive. He even requested the public for help in returning his family and posted a reward for $2,000. For anyone who gave information about Jennifer and Abby, the Colorado River became the center point of the investigation, as police believed the victims' bodies might have been dumped in the area while the investigators were searching the areas near the Colorado River. Forensic experts were working inside the Black home to find any clues that might lead the authorities to Jennifer and Abby. According to the people in the neighborhood, the last they had seen the victims alive was a day earlier when Jennifer came back home after picking up Abby from school. As forensic experts examined different parts of the house, they found blood in the family van. This was the point when Michael turned from a grieving husband and father to a suspect in a double homicide case. But when he was interviewed, he said he didn't know anything about where Jennifer and Abby had gone. "I haven't got a clue who would have any malice in their heart against anyone in our family." Abby is a wonderful girl. He also gave the investigators a timeline leading into the incident. According to Michael, a day before his family went missing, Abby went to bed at her usual time at 7 p.m., but both he and Jennifer stayed up late as they normally would then, around 8 p.m. Jennifer got a call from one of her friends who invited her to lunch the next day. Jennifer accepted the invitation and planned to meet up with her friend before going to bed with her husband around 10 p.m. Michael then told the officers about the day of the incident. As per his account, he woke up around 5:30 a.m. on November 13th, 2001 to go to work. Both his wife and daughter were still asleep because their wake-up time was around 6:30 a.m. Normally, Michael said that he used to call Jennifer multiple times throughout the day to check in on her. He did the same on November 13th as well, but she didn't answer his calls initially. He didn't think anything could be wrong, but after a few hours he grew suspicious and went home from work, and that's when he discovered his wife and daughter were missing. But someone knew that November 13th would be an unusual day in Jennifer and Abby's lives, because Abby's school received a call on November 12th, and the caller informed the administration that she would not be coming to school the next day. Although the school didn't know the identity of the person, they did have the record saying Abby would be missing school on November 13th. Besides the voice notes mentioned earlier in the video, other voice notes were also found. One of them saying, "Hello, my beautiful bride. I hope you are out and about doing all kinds of cool and nifty things." Michael maintained his religious persona in front of authorities through the strength of the Holy Spirit. "I am able to be sitting here in front of you. Right now, every fiber, every corner of my body wants to scream out and shout and grab somebody by the neck and say, 'You did it,' and tear them limb from limb. We are talking about the two important people in my life are missing right now." As the investigation expanded, the officers strongly started to believe that Michael had something to do with the disappearance of Jennifer and Abby. Michael, on the other hand, was constantly denying that, and even started criticizing the police for considering him a suspect. In the case, Michael told the press that it bothered him that he was being looked into despite the fact that he had lost his wife and daughter a month after Jennifer and Abby's disappearance. Michael Black moved out of the family home. He said it was too hard to stay in the house where he lost his wife and daughter. While investigators did their job, Michael kept making frequent appearances in the media saying he believed this was a case of burglary gone wrong. "I've got some great hopes that we're going to find something out. Like you said, somebody knows something. I've certainly had many a time where I've just been completely out of control, but I've also spent a lot of time in my Bible, and the Lord has given me a peace about this." Michael even bought Christmas presents for Jennifer and Abby and told everyone that he hoped they would be home soon to open. Them people were sympathetic towards Michael Black because he wasn't only grieving the loss of his family, but he was also looked into as their possible care killer. However, police and some of Jennifer's friends knew Michael had something to do with his wife and daughter's disappearance. As time passed, the suspicion grew stronger because of new evidence and witnesses, but Michael kept insisting he was innocent. He initially denied any fight with Jennifer before she and Abby disappeared, but the investigators later found a note in which Michael had apologized to Jennifer for letting the devil get a foothold in their lives. But that wasn't as strange as the next thing that was found during the Black House: thousands of pornography images upon asking Michael about them. He said that Jennifer downloaded these images for educational purposes because she wanted to be a good wife and serve her husband, Eddie Melson. One of Jennifer's friends also gave the police some odd pieces of information according to Melson's accounts. Right before Jennifer and Abby went missing, Jennifer called her and asked if they both could visit her. She also told Melson that Michael would not be with them. This was strange to Melson because she knew that Black family always traveled together. In February 2002, Michael was found stealing a shredder and a table from his office. He was brought in to be asked about the theft he had committed while answering the questions by the investigators. Michael Black kept asking them about the possible penalties for murder. This was again very strange coming from someone whose wife and daughter had disappeared a few months ago. Investigators now had all their information on Michael and were trying to crack him under questioning one day when the officers rang Michael's bell. No one opened the door. They could hear the sound of running water coming out of the house, but no one was responding to the knocks on the door, suspecting something was wrong. The police kicked the door open when they entered the bathroom. Michael was lying in the bathtub with his wrist cut. There was also a photo of Jennifer and Abby with him, and a note saying that he didn't kill his wife or daughter. He was quickly taken to the hospital and was given medical care. Due to the harsh winters in Colorado, the search operation was halted till spring. After the IAL attempts, the search resumed in April. The investigators marked a 45-kilometer radius for the search operation but couldn't find any clue of Jennifer or Abby's bodies. In the meantime, one of Michael's co-workers called the police and shared an important tip on the day of Jennifer and Abby's disappearance. Michael's colleagues saw him taking the trash out at work. Michael was pushing a pallet jack with two large cardboard boxes, which he discarded on the loading dock that went to the trash compactor. The co-worker, unaware of the contents of the all person discarding normal trash, would have said yes, but Michael Black immediately declined the offer because he knew it wasn't any normal trash. It was unusual for a person who was working as an engineer in the company and had nothing to do with trash handling. This was an important lead that could take the authorities to Jennifer and Abby's bodies. The first task was locating the landfill where Michael's firm was dumping their trash once the landfill site was tracked. The task was the difficult of everything the police had to do, until that point, locate the possible places in the landfill where trash from Michael's company might have ended up when this development was revealed to the public. A normal person would have been happy that the case of his wife and daughter's disappearance was near enclosure, but Michael did something exactly the opposite. He left the state. What's even more strange was that he told no one, including the police, about his plan and where he was going. Nearly 7 months after the disappearance of Michael's wife and daughter was reported, authorities found what they had been looking for after weeks of searching. On June 5, 2002, the authorities found Jennifer Black's body in the landfill. She was wrapped up in a red and black tent. The body was unwrapped, cleaned, and sent for an autopsy. When the autopsy report came, it shocked everyone, including Jennifer's family and friends. Jennifer Black had been shot into the bullet was still inside her skull. The report also revealed that she was killed in her sleep because the investigators found a retainer in her mouth that she only wore when going to bed after finding Jennifer's body. The investigators knew that Abby Black's body must also have been dumped into the same landfill. A new wave of searches began, with more force to find Abby Black's body. However, the police couldn't find Abby's body. Even after 7 weeks of searching, the authorities looked through roughly 7,000 tons of trash in search of Abby's body, but they knew exactly whom they had to take into custody. Now Michael Black police had a possible reason to arrest Michael, but there was a problem. No one knew where he was. After some searching, it was discovered that Michael Black's mother lived in Georgia, so it was possible that he was hiding at her place. The guess came out to be true because Michael Black was at his mother's house. When the police went to search it, he was immediately arrested and brought back to Colorado to face the charges of his wife and daughter's murder. This was the first time that the public knew that the person pretending to be a grieving husband and father was his family's killer. By this time, Michael Black's first wife had also come to the fore, giving statements in the media that Michael was a completely normal guy and had never abused her while they were together. But as the investigation progressed, it was found that the Black family wasn't as perfect as it seemed from the outside. From the very beginning, Jennifer and Michael had some disagreements, and they often engaged in arguments after marrying Michael. Jennifer realized that her husband wasn't the religious person she thought he was. Michael Black would go to parties, which Jennifer didn't like because of her religious upbringing. After repeated requests by Jennifer to stop doing what she thought was unethical, Michael Black's wife eventually asked him to choose between her and his inappropriate habits. Michael assured her he had given up his habits and their relationship became normal. This was also the time when Abby was born. However, Michael was still in the Navy and didn't give much time to Jennifer, which led her into postpartum depression after Abby's birth. When Michael left the U.S. Navy and began teaching at a Sunday school, Jennifer discovered something new about her husband. He had started talking inappropriately to the kids. In fact, he was preaching his own conservative beliefs by talking about abortion and sexuality. As a result, Michael was fired from his job. This also resulted in financial problems for the Black family, who were already there, because their previous house wasn't selling. And when it finally did, they lost more than $8,000. Jennifer often called her friends in Simpsonville and told them she wasn't happy be living in Grand Junction, but she also used to say that since Michael was happy about his job, she was willing to stay in Colorado as a dutiful wife. While the police were trying to make Michael share the motive of his murders, a worker at a legal firm came forward and told authorities that Jennifer had come to the firm a few days before her disappearance. She was quite disturbed and wanted to talk to an attorney. It was later discovered that Jennifer was being abused by Michael and wanted a divorce from her husband. A further look into Michael's computer revealed that he frequently used an escort service upon interviewing the workers of the escort service. It was found that Michael Black frequently visited them and used to get massages from topless women. When the investigators asked Michael about it, he said his wife knew about it because the couple was having sexual problems at home, so he went to the massage center for the sake of research. But it was soon discovered that Michael wasn't only addicted to explicit practices and websites, but he also forced Jennifer to watch it with him. This clarified why Jennifer wanted separation from Michael Black. Her diary showed an extremely religious woman constantly praying and working on her relationship with God. The investigators also found a note in one of Jennifer's books in which she had written about a recent fight with her husband. All the witness statements and evidence against Michael Black made one thing clear as daylight. He was abusive towards his wife and constantly forced her to do things she didn't want to do. When she refused, he decided to kill to protect his secret life, and this also explained the disappearance of Abby Black. According to the investigators, she probably saw her father killing her mother, so Michael killed his daughter too, since there was no concrete proof that it was Michael Black who killed Jennifer and Abby. The prosecution decided against seeking the death penalty for the accused. Michael Black was even released on bond to live with his mother while awaiting trial in March 2004. Michael Black's trial began, and he was charged with first-degree murder. The prosecution told the jury that Michael Black killed his wife because she wanted a divorce from him. He then wrapped the bodies of both Jennifer and Abby, took them to his job, and dumped them there. Michael then acted normal and called his home multiple times as he normally would. Michael Black even left a few messages in the voicemail to make it look like he was completely unaware of what had happened to his wife and daughter. This is why he called the police on November 13th, so the authorities considered it a case of home invasion. Jennifer's mother told the jury that Michael Black had abused her daughter multiple times during their marriage and even choked her once. While he was drunk, the defense attorney argued that a predator broke into the Black home and killed Jennifer and Abby. When they resisted throughout the trial, Michael Black maintained that he was not guilty and had nothing to do with his wife and daughter's murder. On April 16, 2004, the jury found Michael Black guilty of murdering his wife and daughter. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, but the case saw a new turn when 10 years after the conviction, the verdict was overturned because one of the jurors in Michael Black's case had lied about their domestic violence history in the juror questionnaire. As a result, Michael Black was granted a retrial. However, the Colorado Supreme Court granted the prosecutors an emergency stay to keep Michael Black in prison. While he awaited the retrial, Michael Black's retrial began in February 2018, and his attorneys brought in new evidence in a try to get him acquitted. The defense also tried to dispute the investigation method. Followed in Michael Black's case, however, Michael Black was once again found guilty of killing his wife and daughter and given the same sentence as before, life imprisonment, marking the end of a heinous crime case. Story 3, we have all heard news of people living in abusive relationships and unable to get out of them. Sometimes such relationships end up in the most unimaginable way possible. Murder, and when such incidents come to light, they shock everyone. The story of Lisa Cecilia Haram and her boyfriend Simon Gitney is one such case where one partner did the unexpected to the other. So what happened to Lisa Haram? What led to the events that were unbelievable for her family and friends? And how was Simon Gitney part of this whole story? Watch this video until the end to find the answers to all these questions and learn about some of the most chilling details of the Lisa Haram case. Lisa Cecilia Haram, an extroverted, energetic, and confident woman, grew up in Toronto, Canada, and loved dancing. She was so passionate about it that she started performing ballet at a very young age. Lisa also loved experiencing new things in life. Therefore, in 2005, when she was 24 years old, she decided to say goodbye to Toronto and move to Australia, new to the country. Lisa's initial stay in Australia was on a 12-month work visa, but she soon managed to extend her stay in the land down under by finding a job at Australian Hair and Beauty College in Sydney. It was the perfect job for Lisa since she had a keen interest in fashion and beauty trends. Lisa had always been close to her family, and this didn't change after her moving to Australia either. She would regularly call and message her mother, Joan, to share about her life thousands of miles away from Toronto. Lisa's family had always been supportive of her decision, and they supported her in her decision to permanently move to Australia too. For years after moving to Australia in 2009, Lisa left her residence and was in search of a new place to live in Sydney. This was when she was introduced to Simon Genet, the man who would play the key role in Lisa Cecilia's story. A friend introduced Lisa to Simon as a potential roommate who was 10 years older than her and was a businessman from luxurious suites to the latest cars. Simon's lifestyle matched Sydney's upper class. He imported high-end footwear from the United States and sold it online in Australia for a good profit, while updating her mother about her new accommodation arrangement. Lisa told Joan that it was temporary and she would move to her own place as soon as she found a good one. Lisa also told her mother that it was completely safe to move in with a stranger because Simon wasn't even interested in women. Soon Lisa moved to Simon's apartment on the 15th floor of a luxury high-rise building called the Hyde. The unit truly showed what luxury looked like, its floor-to-ceiling. Windows gave an exclusive and direct view of the famous Hyde Park in Sydney's business district. Things went as usual for 2 months before Lisa and Simon developed a romantic relationship. Lisa told her mother about dating Simon and also said that she had a good relationship with Simon up until that point, but she never mentioned that she was in love with Simon. As time passed, the relationship also progressed and the couple grew closer. This setting went on for nearly 2 years before things got even more serious in June 2011 while celebrating Lisa's 30th birthday. At a restaurant, Simon proposed to Lisa in front of a large gathering that included his family and friends too. Lisa was very happy and accepted Simon's proposal, but this would all change very soon. Just 6 weeks after a memorable birthday on the 30th of July 2011, Lisa locked herself in the bathroom of their 15th floor apartment. She then called her mother and begged her to come to Australia and get her away from Simon Gitney. Yes, the same man whom Lisa had been living with for nearly 2 years and who had proposed to her just a few weeks ago. Joan, being a mother, immediately applied for leave from work so she could go to Australia to help her daughter. She also told Lisa to instantly get out of the apartment with her handbag, which she had already packed, and her passport. But before Joan could finalize her arrangements and depart to Australia for her daughter's rescue, she was informed by the Toronto police that Lisa Cecilia Harnham had died. So what exactly happened on the 30th of July around 10 o'clock in the morning? Screams started coming out of Simon and Lisa's 15th floor balcony in the Hyde. Coincidentally, an exchange student from Japan and his brother were walking by the building to Liverpool Street to catch a bus home. While waiting for the bus, the Japanese student was facing the Hyde with a clear view of the balcony of the unit where Lisa and Simon lived. He soon heard a noise from the balcony on the 15th floor. When he looked up, he saw something horrific. A body fell down from the building while a shirtless man stood on the balcony gazing down. When the other people on the street also heard the screams, they rushed to the building, and Lisa Harnham's body was lying in front of the building. Soon the medics and the police rushed to the scene, but Lisa couldn't survive the impact of falling from the 15th floor. Besides Lisa, her handbag was also lying on the scene. She was fully clothed, except for a shoe that was likely to have dislodged from the fall. While the investigators were searching Lisa's clothes and her handbag, they found a torn note in her pocket that read, "There are surveillance cameras inside and outside the house." The apartment did have security cameras that captured the moments when Lisa fell. The footage showed distraught Simon rushing to call a lift. He then briefly went inside and came back in the hallway. When the lift had arrived, he had put on a shirt now shortly. The lift reached the ground level and Simon rushed outside just as he had rushed inside it a while ago when the police interrogated Simon about the cameras. He told the investigators how to operate them. But he didn't tell the police anything about the hard drive that stored the footage from these cameras. And by the time the police knew about the hard drive, it had mysteriously disappeared. The cameras had indeed captured everything that went on in the apartment. Just before Lisa's fall, one of the cameras directed at the front door showed something shocking. It showed Lisa attempting to leave the apartment, but before she could do that, Simon forcefully pulled her back inside. This happened in estimated 65 to 69 seconds before Lisa fell to her death, and showed that a heated argument had taken place between the couple. Simon Gitney also admitted this. When Lisa and Simon's neighbors on the 15th floor were interviewed by the police, they reported hearing screams coming out of the couple's unit. One of the neighbors said they heard Lisa crying and shouting, "Please help me, God please help me." One neighbor's door was also banged on, but soon there was complete silence on the floor. According to Simon's account, the argument began when Lisa told him she had a secret to reveal but would not disclose it. But things soon cooled down, and Simon went to the kitchen to make tea for his partner. He once again asked Lisa about the secret that she wasn't telling him. It was at this point that Lisa ran to the balcony that was connected to her bedroom. He further told the authorities that he believed Lisa was just scaring him, as she would usually do such things in times of disagreements. Recalling a previous incident, he shared that Lisa had once opened the door to a fast-moving car and threatened to jump out, and one time she did leap out of the moving car, but the car wasn't traveling at high speed. Simon told police that after climbing over the treadmill onto the balcony, Lisa then climbed over the railing. She thought she was on top of the awning directly below and believed it was leveled with the balcony floor, but it wasn't the case, and she slipped. Lisa did try to recover while Simon ran to her, grasping over the edge, but before he could get a good hold of her, she fell to her death. An anguishing Simon then screamed out her name, which was likely the sound the Japanese student had heard initially. Simon's story made perfect sense, and the evidence also seemed to fit, but it also raised an important question that was still unanswered. Why did Lisa carry her handbag over the railing? Forensic teams did not find Lisa's fingerprints on the balcony glass, though they did find Simon's given the possible reasons for this. Some experts said that if Lisa climbed using her handbag to clutch the railing, only smudges would be left behind. Simon's account of the incident would have saved him from a murder trial had it not been for key witnesses who saw something that no one else did that morning. Joshua RTHL, a young man, was also walking in front of the hide when he heard incoherent voices coming out of the 15th floor balcony of the apartment building. Joshua did not see Lisa Harum falling from her balcony, but he did see a crowd of people trying to resuscitate someone. He also joined the crowd and soon after witnessed a man in his pajamas and white shirt come out of the building. After standing in the crowd for a while, Josh continued on to work, but when he saw the news of Lisa Harnum's death on the news, he contacted the police to share what he saw. A few days after Lisa and Simon got engaged, she wrote to her mother and said that she might be in love with Simon, but she also mentioned that he was suffocating and controlling. In September 2010, Lisa wrote in a text Simon convinced Lisa to first quit her job at the saloon and then stopped her from working out at the public gym. As a result, her trainer had come to her apartment to train her. He also insisted that Lisa loved the beauty and fashion industry. She should wear standardized clothing that was bland and uniform. Like this included plain bottoms, preferable trousers, flat shoes, and nothing revealing her hair needed to be tied back, and she couldn't apply any makeup. Lisa Haram's family later told the press that they clearly could see that Lisa had become isolated after meeting Simon, and she was nothing like her former self. However, Simon Gitney characterized his relationship with Lisa in a completely different way. He admitted to having disputes, but said they made compromises and there was a lot of love and affection in their relationship. An audio file recorded on the 10th of June 2011, roughly a month before Lisa's death, contained a late-night conversation between Lisa and her fiancé. The file that was recorded secretly by Lisa gave a sneak peek into the couple's relationship. "I have nothing else to do in my life other than you, that's it. If I had my family here, you know what, I would spend half of my time with you and half of my time with my family. You know what I mean? I don't have anybody else, so when I'm bummed and I'm not trying to make you feel bad, Simon. But it hurts my feelings when you say the things to me. No, it's like, I've never, you know what, I always wait at home for you. I do it. Like, I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything without your permission, without asking you, without you being okay with everything. And I don't do anything other than whatever it is that you tell me to do. You know what, honestly, Simon, sometimes the things you say to me can be really mean. They're not meant to be mean. They're not meant to be mean. Sometimes you really mean to me, and I don't do anything intentionally without your feelings. I know you don't. I don't do anything. Like, I just love being with you. Like, the only time I ever speak to somebody is, did I not stick up for you today? Did I not fight for you? You did, and I loved it, but it's because I love you, Cecilia. I might not say it all the time, or I might not. You might not think it or feel it, or, even though we do have a beautiful relationship, but know that it is real and that I love you. This conversation clearly shows Lisa wasn't happy with her partner's controlling nature. Similarly, a text from Simon to Lisa read, "Please don't let any guy talk to you, or please don't look at any guys, as your eyes should gaze only on me." Between Lisa and Simon's engagement and Lisa's death, there were signs that she wanted to get out of the relationship. Lisa packed up some of her belongings and gave them to her trainer, Lisa Brown, to keep them with her until she needed them. Then on the morning of the 30th of July, Lisa locked herself in the bathroom and called her mother for help. We didn't know it all to the extent that, how much he was tracking her. I just remember one time when she was home and he kept calling her, and just for her comment about, "How does he always know where I am?" when Lisa was wondering about Simon knowing everything about her actions and movement. She was completely unaware that her partner had installed software on her computer and could track every single one of her calls, messages, emails, and online bookings. No matter where she was, he had also installed a secret camera in the apartment to watch her movement. And the torn note in her pocket suggested she found out about these cameras only recently. It was because of these monitoring tools that Simon knew Lisa was planning to leave him. He had found out about Lisa giving her belongings to her trainer, her calls to her mother, and the tickets she had booked to Canada. Simon Gitney was charged with Lisa Haram's murder and remained in custody. But in January 2012, a few months after his arrest, he was granted bail. He pleaded not guilty to charges and remained free on bond, but Simon's bail was revoked in November 2013, just before closing statements in his trial. The trial attracted heavy media coverage. And while Lisa's family and friends were the center of attention, there was another person, too, who grabbed the media's attention. Rachel Louise, the 23-year-old, was Simon's new girlfriend, but Rachel's relationship wasn't as much in question as her resemblance to Lisa Harnum. Rachel remained extremely loyal to Simon throughout his trial. She attended every hearing and carried signs saying he was innocent. She also reportedly gave Simon $85,000 of her savings to fund his case. She then borrowed another $30,000 from his friends that was also spent on the case. However, despite these hefty contributions from Simon's new girlfriend, he was granted a judge-only trial because he told the court that he could not afford a defense for a full jury trial. Simon Gitt's trial began on the 21st of October 2013 and lasted for over 4 weeks. Simon's defense argued that the accused had nothing to do with Lisa Cecilia Haram's death and that she intended to jump over the railing. His lawyers also told the court that Lisa did so because she was depressed. However, regardless of the fact that this argument didn't have a strong backing, by evidence, there were some evident loopholes in the prosecution's case, too. The glass railing on Simon's 15th floor apartment in the Hyde measured 1.2 meters, or roughly 4 feet in height. Simon was 169 centimeters and 5½ foot tall. This suggested that he had lifted Lisa to a height higher than the railing. It would have been challenging. Lisa's weight was 50 kilos or 110 pounds. Another question that was raised was if Simon was physically fit enough to lift his partner to that height and throw her over the railing. As per the prosecution's argument and the key witnesses, Joshua Rathel's testimony, Simon's brother Anthony Gitney even recorded a video of him recreating the scene in an attempt to disprove the charges against Simon Gitney. Carrying Lisa to the balcony would also mean passing the treadmill and a potted plant in bedroom. But both these items were undisturbed when the investigators first arrived in the apartment. The building surveillance footage also suggested that Simon only briefly went back into his apartment after calling the lift and couldn't tidy up the scene in such a short time period if he had committed the crime. Some other questions were also raised, especially Lisa's physical state at the time. While the prosecution argued that Lisa had been rendered unconscious first and then dropped from the balcony. The neighbors' testimonies said that there had been cries in the hallway before Lisa's death, so there would have likely been signs of disturbance had there been any struggle between the couple. According to the neighbors' testimony and the time of the incident, there was roughly a minute between the cries in the hallway went silent and Lisa fell to her death. So Lisa was either unconscious during that time, where the couple agreed to settle down and talk things through. The autopsy report also did not find any signs of, except for the ones caused by the fall, which meant there was no evidence to suggest how Lisa had been knocked out. If that was the case, Lisa's handbag was also with her, so it was also clear how an unconscious Lisa continued to hold on to it. All these considerations raise questions about the key witness's testimony that Simon had deliberately killed Lisa. The whole case against Simon Gitney was standing on Joshua's testimony because he was the only person to have witnessed what happened just before the fall. During the trial, Joshua agreed with the defense on one point, that the screams and seeing the shirtless man on the balcony happened in a very short period of time. He stated, "We are talking about a split second here. All I can confidently say is that the scream drew my attention straight away." He also agreed that there might be some doubt about the accuracy of his observation considering how far he was from the building. At the time of the incident, one thing was clear: Simon had been a submissive partner, and there had been some kind of disagreement between Lisa and Simon just before her fall. A dig into Simon's police record discovered that he had a violent past and was first arrested for assault as a teenager in 1991. When he confronted an ex-girlfriend's employer, Simon had been harassing her at work in Western Sydney shopping. He was also caught with stolen items in his car. A few years later, Simon also assaulted 2 police detectives when they visited his house because he had failed to attend a court hearing. He bit off part of a detective's ear and was charged with maliciously wounding a law enforcement official. Lisa had no idea that she was living with a man who had been sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, though he never served a full-time prison sentence because he convinced a sentencing judge that he had repented and planned to become a Catholic. Simon was allowed to go to France, but he returned shortly after having abandoned his faith. In the following years, he was also arrested for charges relating to drug reply, found guilty, and was sentenced to 3 years of periodic detention when Lisa moved in with him. In 2009, he had been running a shoe importation business named Shoe Candy and was a successful businessman while delivering her verdict. The judge found Simon Gitney reacted with rage when he discovered that Lisa had removed some of her belongings. Joshua Rowell's testimony was deemed credible despite a defense expert testifying his recollection of the event was likely a false memory. Simon's own testimony was described as unconvincing, like a person playing a role. The judge said that Simon's version of the events fit evidence like a checkbox exercise, but his story about what had taken place lacked personal interactions and details. The defense's claim that Lisa had tendencies towards suicide and self-harm was also rejected. Simon Gitney was found guilty of murdering his partner, Lisa Cecilia Haram, while his new girlfriend, Rachel Louise, yelled at the judge, "You're freaking wrong." He was sentenced to a minimum of 18 years and a maximum of 26 years in prison. Simon filed an appeal against the verdict but lost in 2016. He will not be eligible for parole until 2031. Joan Haram and Lisa's other family members were also present in Australia throughout the trial. After the verdict, Lisa's mother talked about her legacy. "We will always mourn the loss of our beautiful Lisa Cecilia and are working towards making her legacy a powerful wake-up call to young women and to parents, siblings, and friends of these women to be aware of the warning signs of a controlling relationship and to take a proactive approach to assisting them." Story 4, growing up in a loving family, pursuing dreams, and becoming a role model in her community is something many young girls aspire to. Ashley Diddle was no different. Born on May 20th, 1998 in Louisville, Colorado, she was a bright and energetic girl who found her passion for horses at just 5 years old. Her love for horseback riding became her identity, which led her to the rodeo world. By the age of 18, she was crowned Lady in Waiting, one step away from becoming a rodeo queen. She had her eyes set on promising college life ahead as well, but what seemed like the perfect life would soon be shattered by a tragedy that no one saw coming. A tragedy that would destroy not one but 2 families on the evening of June 9th. 2016, a seemingly ordinary day for 18-year-old Ashley Diddle took a horrifying turn. Ashley, a beloved figure in her community and aspiring rodeo queen, had planned to meet up with her ex-boyfriend, Tanner Flores. The Lon Hagler Reservoir was the location the couple had agreed to meet and discuss their troubled relationship. Ashley, not knowing what fate had in store for her, entered Tanner's truck. What started out as a conversation about a relationship would soon take a horrific turn, one that no one in Colorado, even in their worst nightmare, would have imagined: a cold-blooded murder of a teenage girl who was once a symbol of positivity and hope in her community. Ashley Diddle was born on May 20th, 1998 in Louisville, Colorado to Marie and Jeff. From a very young age, she was known to have a type of energy and aura about her that drew others closer. She had two brothers, Brandon and Michael, and was fortunate enough to have grown up in a family that always loved her and prioritized her dreams. Ashley, by the age of just 5, had her very first pony, and from that day forward, she never looked back on anything else. Her passion for horseback riding was truly immense, and fostered at a very young age as well. It was something that really became a part of her identity. She had a profound love for horses and developed a sense of community early on, which is what gave her a purpose in life. A few years later, at the age of just 8, she began to ride in horse shows and completely fell in love with the rodeo community and lifestyle she was involved in. Rodeo activities all the time, and had some profound achievements to her name. In 2016, when Ashley was around 18 years old, she was crowned Lady. In waiting, the title holds prestige value in the rodeo community and was given to someone who would work alongside the rodeo queen to truly embody the spirit. It comes with a lot of different responsibilities that include things like planning fundraisers, helping prepare sponsors, attending community events, learning to be an event spokesperson, and much more. Having received such a title was a huge honor for her, and it meant that she was only a year away from becoming rodeo queen herself. She became quite well known for her commitment to the rodeo community and was seen as a role model by many teenage girls who aspired to be just like her. Oftentimes, young girls would come up to her and ask for her autograph, shedding some light on her character. Ashley was the type of person who would write a personal note to each person who came up for an autograph. It was a sweet and caring gesture, and in the note she would encourage the reader to keep pursuing doing their dreams. Apart from this, Ashley was also an active part of the Boulder County 4-Horse program, which seeks to encourage young children to get involved in the horseback riding community. She also competed on lots of horse judging and hypological in the National 4-H Western Roundup. But this wasn't the sum of her ambitions. Ashley was also a founding member and a 2-time vice president of the Thomas Valley FF. The Future Farmers of America FFA was an INCURS student organization catering to the interests of those who wanted to be involved in agriculture and leadership. Ashley had quite a lot going on for her during her time and wanted to pursue the FFA at the state level. When she started college, she graduated from Beret High in May of 2016 and had plans to attend Colorado State University there. She would major in agriculture business. She had her eyes set on the next chapter in life and didn't know that it would not begin. Her life was ripped to shreds by one person who decided that if he couldn't have her, then the world wouldn't either. That one person was Tanner Flores. Ashley had met Tanner back in high school, and both of them were in a relationship that appeared to be normal to the outside world. Think of it like a typical teenage romance. However, the young couple did have their troubles. Tanner was said to be very controlling of Ashley, controlling to a point where he dictated what she could and couldn't do. He even forbade her from attending parties at college, which didn't make much sense since Ashley was not known for being the party type anyway. So was he just jealous of her achievements? Did he want to keep her all to himself? Was he insecure that he'd lose her to someone better regardless of what he felt? He always took these personal issues or concerns out on Ashley in different ways, who was fed up with all this. After a year into the relationship, she knew that Tanner wasn't right for her and decided to break up with him. The decision, as it turns out, was not so straightforward for Tanner on June 4th, 2016. Tanner requested that he and Ashley go on a hike in Estes Park and discuss their relationship. He probably didn't understand what it meant to have a discussion because even though Ashley had broken up, he thought the discussion went great and the two were back together. He either didn't get the message or didn't want to accept it. The following day, Ashley had gone out with some friends to the Sundance Steakhouse and Saloon, and Tanner showed up there as well. Witnesses at the location say that Tanner at some point grabbed her, twirled her around in his direction, and attempted to talk with her. However, Ashley was so fed up by all this and wanted nothing to do with Tanner. She ended up leaving the location, but the next day, Tanner convinced her to meet him again at Leon Hagler Reservoir so the two could talk by the time the conversation ended. Tanner somehow thought they were back together, even though Ashley had stated that they weren't. The day after that, Ashley went back to the Sundance Steakhouse and Saloon. This time she even reached out to Tanner and told him not to come because she didn't want to see him again. Tanner, however, came up with a lie claiming his keys were locked inside his truck and he needed Ashley to come pick him up. But Ashley just ignored this message for days after the hike on June 8th. Ashley agreed to go and sell some scrap metal with Tanner at the time. She didn't know this would mark the initiation of a horrific life event. That day, Tanner ended up going through her phone and found that she'd been texting two other guys. He thought Ashley was flirting with the other guys and accused her of cheating. At the time, both Ashley and Tanner had not gotten back together. Later that night, Tanner contacted the two guys and made Ashley really angry. Then Tanner texted Ashley the following message: "I hope you realize what you threw away. I gave you everything and spent so much money on you. You were too busy trying to, Tori and Jared behind my back. You were nothing near loyal. I'm going to do something stupid now. Bye." Ashley actually responded, trying to defend herself, and up until this point she wanted to remain friends with him, but things had gotten a bit too far. The next day, Tanner again messaged Ashley asking if the two of them could meet up and talk. She told him that she had been in Denver that morning, but she would be able to meet him later in the day while Ashley was in Denver. Tanner borrowed his dad's pistol and went to shoot at Carter Lake, claiming that it would help him decompress. He continued to text Ashley throughout the day, and in one of the texts, he even stated he missed her. Ashley was so annoyed by all of this that she ended up texting him stop, but she had agreed to meet him later in the day simply because she didn't like being a rude or unkind person during the afternoon of June 9th. Both of them got together at the Lon Hagler Reservoir, where Ashley went inside Tanner's truck. Little did she know it would be the last thing she ever did at around 7:30 p.m. Her parents went out to look for her because she hadn't come home by that time. 30 minutes later at 8 p.m., they found her car in one of the parking spaces at the reservoir. Both Jay and Marie were certain that Ashley would have texted them if she was planning to be late given this. They came to the conclusion that something wasn't right and immediately called the sheriff's office and reported her missing. Local authorities were quick to jump in on the action and initiate search efforts. They began calling Ashley's friends and family members to gather any information they could during their efforts. One thing that stood out the most was that everyone kept mentioning the name Tanner. The authorities soon learned that Tanner and Ashley were in a relationship and had a breakup. They were made aware of Tanner's distraught over the separation, and one person even told them that Tanner had posted something on Snapchat that made him believe that he was suicidal. Other people the authorities spoke to told them that they had never seen Tanner so depressed soon after Tanner's father came forward and told the officers that his .22 caliber revolver was missing from a locked gun safe, and Tanner knew where the key was. A be on the lookout was issued for Tanner's truck officers. All around Colorado were put on alert and the search efforts were at peak. By that time, the efforts concluded at 8 a.m. the following morning, and Tanner's location had been identified. Authorities had received a call during which they were told that the truck was seen on his deceased grandfather's property in Callbar in Colorado. The location was on the other side of the state and around 5 hours away from where those involved in the entire event resided. It was later revealed that Tanner's grandmother had called a neighbor to confirm if the truck was indeed on the property, and upon confirmation reported it to law enforcement. Given the distance of the location, assembling a team to make an arrest would take some time, so the authorities decided to have a wildlife ranger go to the property to keep an eye on Tanner so he couldn't escape, while Tanner did not make any attempts to flee the location. He did do some other things that could be described as very disturbing. The neighbor whom Tanner's grandmother had called, and the wildlife ranger watched as Tanner began throwing rags soaked with blood into a nearby field. He also moved a roll-up mat into a woodpile behind the house, and what they saw next was utterly horrific. Tanner came out of the house with a heavy blanket and put it on the back seat of his truck. The blanket appeared to be quite heavy for him to carry. Sticking outside of it was a human arm this time. It was pretty clear what Tanner had done and might have gotten away with too, but luckily an arrest was made later that morning. The sheriff's deputies, CBI agents, and members of 3 additional law enforcements made it to the property. They made the arrest without any incidents at the property, and when they went to Tanner's truck and opened up the blanket he had placed on the back seat, it was the corpse of Ashley Marie Diddle. At this point, no life-saving measures could have been taken, and everyone's worst nightmare had turned into a reality. Tanner initially told the officers that the two of them were discussing their relationship in his truck, and Ashley was the one who lost control. Tanner's initial story was that Ashley grabbed the gun and pointed it at her head. He said that he tried to wrestle the gun away from her, but during the struggle it went off and she was shot. He went on to say that he shot her 2 times after to end her pain and suffering, because the first shot didn't kill her. After hearing this, the officer told him that he was not buying any of it, and after a few minutes, Tanner came clean. Since Ashley was dead by that time, the only details that could be delivered were to come from Tanner. He told the officer that he and Ashley had got together at Longhagler Reservoir, and from there they drove west towards Carter Lake. This is the same lake Tanner had visited earlier in the day to practice shooting. According to Tanner, this is where they discussed their relationship. Ashley told him that she didn't want to patch things up with him but would marry him later in life, and right now needs time to explore other relationships. After this conversation, they started to drive back to where Ashley's car was parked, and that's when things went south. He said that Ashley glared at him during the drive back, and that's all it took. He reached into the back seat, grabbed the revolver, and shot Ashley in the back of the head not once but twice. Tanner claims that she didn't die right away, which is why he had to shoot her a 3rd time. According to Tanner, the 3rd shot was intended to end her suffering. After that, he tried to clean her body as best he could and drove off to his deceased grandfather's property, located at the other end of the state. Once he had given his statement, he was held in the Mesa County Jail without bail. Ashley's funeral took place on June 17th at St. Evangelist Catholic Parish in Loveland, Colorado. Everyone at the ceremony, her family, friends, and other community members totaling up to over 700 were all devastated by what happened. The teenage girl was once the happiness and aspiration for the community was now mourned. Her mother, Marie Diddle, said that she didn't want her daughter to be remembered for the way she died, but for how she lived. She wanted Ashley's memory to be that of a full-of-life 18-year-old girl who accomplished so much and set herself up for her own success. The age of 18 is a strange time in life for many. During this age, it's often hard to figure out what you're really going to do with your life, passion, profession. College, there's just so much going on that the sheer number of options can be overwhelming for anyone, but this wasn't the case for Ashley. The options weren't overwhelming for her at all. In fact, she achieved greatness in almost everything she took part in. That's just who she was at an age. When many are confused about their life, Ashley had it planned out, but who knew? Those plans would be cut short from all who attended her funeral. She was described as fun, smiling, goofy, and down to earth. She was the lady in waiting to be the rodeo queen and would have been queen next year, but during the upcoming season, she will now be remembered and memorialized. Ashley had done so much for the community, and the funeral was indeed an enormous one. But apart from the ceremony, a few other things also took place on that day. The FBI announced that it would be assisting Lehrer County in the investigation and would help with evidence and search and recovery. Tanner, who was previously held at Mesa County Jail, was also transferred to the Lehrer County Jail on the same day Ashley was being put to rest. The pursuit of justice for the Diddle family was about to begin on June 20th. Tanner made his first court appearance and was charged with first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping. The basis for the kidnapping charges was based on the presumed fact that Tanner didn't let Ashley get out of the truck when she wanted to grief, pain, suffering, and agony would all continue to be a part of daily life for the Doet family. After Ashley was in her final resting place, the family would have to wait 1.5 years until legal proceedings began. In October 2017, the trial officially began, and the courtroom was filled with family and friends of both teens. It was clear to everyone that Tanner had killed Ashley. The only question that was to be answered was whether it was a premeditated act or not. The prosecution believed and argued that the killing was planned out. They claimed that Tanner had gone out to the lake earlier in the morning to test the revolver and find an isolated location to commit the murder, but this wasn't their only claim. The prosecution also mentioned that the revolver used for killing was a single-action firearm, meaning that the firing mechanism had to be manually reset after each shot, given that Ashley was shot 3 times. The prosecution mentioned that the killing had to be one out of deliberation, not one out of the heat of the moment. The defense, however, argued that it wasn't a planned killing, and that second fair charge during the trial. Tanner took the stand, testified, and told the horrific details of the entire incident in his testimony. He never denied what he did, but he fully denied that he had planned to do it. Some other details that weren't part of his initial statement upon arrest were also revealed. He told the court that he threw both their phones out of the truck after the murder. However, before throwing out Ashley's phone, he texted himself. Pretending to be her, the texts mainly stated that both of them weren't together that afternoon and that Ashley was not going to meet him. But these details only looked like a failed attempt to distance himself and cover up his tracks. However, the next detail he revealed is one that shook everyone to their core. The night before he was arrested, he went to his deceased grandfather's property and broke the glass sliding door to gain access to the property. Once there, he cleaned up some of the blood turned on the TV and watched some cartoons before falling asleep. Yes, cartoons? How is it possible for one to love another so much they can't see them with anyone else but still have the audacity to murder their beloved and watch TV? Afterward, this is a question that remains unanswered at the end of the trial. Both families had suffered an immense loss. They lost their children, and the lives planned ahead with that verdict came justice for Ashley, but also a dead end for Tanner. The pain either of the families experienced can only be described as unbearable. Justice had prevailed, but no, one won the case. In this bitter reality, two families were destroyed and ripped to shreds in the process, but the case shed light on a much bigger part of life breakup. Violence in the United States. 1.5 million high school students experience physical abuse from a dating partner on an annual basis, and 1 in 3 U.S. teens aged between 14 to 20 have been victims of dating violence. Despite this, 81% of parents believe that teen dating violence is not an issue. Marie and Jeff Doolittle recognized that not enough conversation was happening around a reality that took their daughter from them, and the reality that many other Ashleys would be living in the U.S. and other parts of the world to combat this and raise awareness. Ashley's parents started the Ashley Doet Foundation. With this nonprofit organization, they aim to preserve the legacy of their daughter and wish to continue giving back to the community the way Ashley did today. The foundation aims to build awareness and prevent teen dating violence, give victims the opportunity to connect with the right support groups, launch programs in schools, and discuss the signs of dating violence with students and parents. Ashley's mother says that they started the foundation to keep her memory alive. Her exact words during the initial days of the foundation were, "We want some good to come out of this through the Ashley Diddle Foundation and try to prevent this from happening to other families so others don't have to go through what we went through." The case of Ashley Doolittle serves as a severe reminder of the dangers that bloom in teenage relationships. While not all relationships follow the trajectory of Tanner and Ashley, some still do, and it's important to understand that violence, be it physical, verbal, or even psychological, is not acceptable, and if ignored, it can lead to dire consequences. Similar to those Ashley had to suffer her killer Tanner on October 4th. 2017 was found guilty of murder and second-degree kidnapping and was sentenced to life in prison. Ricin without parole and an additional 32 years. Story 5. Anna Libic, a native of the W-Tune of Serbia, was born in 1983, growing up in Belgrade. Anna pursued her passion for the French language and literature by obtaining a bachelor's degree at the University of Belgrade in 2005. She decided to immigrate to the United States, where she gained dual citizenship after settling in Virginia. Anna embarked on a new journey as a hotel housekeeper. However, her dedication, motivation, and compassion soon caught the attention of her employers, leading to a series of prestigious opportunities at high-end hotels and resorts throughout New England. One such establishment was the Wheatley Hotel in Lenox, Massachusetts. While working at the Wheatley, Anna crossed paths with Brian Walsh. At the time, Anna was already in a serious relationship with someone else. However, Anna's divorce provided an opportunity for her to reconnect with Brian Walsh. In 2014, Brian Walsh was a complex man with a checkered past. He was the son of a prominent neurologist who ran the neurology department at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. Despite coming from generational wealth, he had a complex background that led to his emotional and psychological struggles. According to news reports, Brian's parents neglected him. leaving him feeling unloved and emotionally damaged. Brian's parents enrolled him in a top-notch boarding school in Rhode Island, hoping the quality education would compensate for their lack of attention. However, instead of nurturing him, they sent him away further, exacerbating his sense of abandonment after completing his education at the boarding school. Brian enrolled at the prestigious Carnegie Mellon University. However, his studies didn't last very long as he had to leave when he entered a mental health facility. Although Brian's parents had the means to pay for his care, they failed to decide who should take responsibility for his treatment. As a result, he was forced to leave the facility without the necessary support. Brian wore many hats in his life, and his passion for the finer things in life was evident. One news report described an incident where Brian purchased an entire stock of white truffles at a Boston restaurant, showcasing his wealth. Another person shared that even as a teen, Brian exhibited this behavior, wearing a suit and sipping Pepsi in the lobby of Eights Carlton while interacting with high-powered brokers in 2015. Brian's life took a turn when he met Anna and got engaged. The couple eventually married and had their first child, followed by 2 more children. A few years later, Anna and Brian Walsh's life was not without its struggles. The couple faced various challenges, including legal troubles related to fraudulent art dealings using Anna's eBay account. Brian listed 2 Andy Warhol paintings as originals. In the description, he claimed that he was being forced to sell them. Due to a recent remodel, despite Brian's false claims, someone from California paid $80,000 for the paintings. However, upon receiving the artwork, the buyer discovered the paintings were fraudulent and sued Anna and Brian. The person who purchased the fraudulent paintings accused Anna of using her position in the hospitality industry to gain their trust and allow her husband to sell the forged art in a civil suit, while Anna's precise knowledge of her husband's fraudulent art dealings remains uncertain. She wrote a letter to the judge praising Brian for his role as a stay-at-home father. Despite Anna's best efforts, it was evident that she was also preparing for the possibility of Brian facing a lengthy prison sentence. Anna had already taken steps to move herself and her son's belongings into her Washington, D.C. home, indicating she was planning to make the move. Permanent Anna was a remarkable woman. She was an exceptional person, professionally and personally known for her unwavering dedication and compassion. Everyone around her felt her presence, and her impact on their lives was undeniable. One of the most remarkable aspects of Anna's character was her unwavering commitment to her work. She approached her job with utmost seriousness and never took shortcuts. Her confidence and expertise in her field were evident as she consistently delivered high-quality results. However, despite the demands of her career, Anna's 3 sons held a special place in her heart. She was a devoted mother who prioritized her family. Above all else, her tireless efforts were driven by a strong desire to provide her children with the best possible life. Anna's 3 sons were her world, and she cherished every moment she spent with them. Despite frequently being away on business trips, Anna ensured she was always within reach. Modern technology such as text messages, phone calls, and FaceTime allowed her to stay connected with her children regardless of physical location. This constant communication provided her with a sense of reassurance and allowed her to maintain a strong bond with them while Anna traveled for work. Brian remained home caring for their 3 sons. This arrangement was due to an art fraud scheme that Brian was involved in, which required him to stay at home under house arrest with Anna frequently away. Brian had to step up and ensure the boys were all taken care of. He made it his goal to provide a loving and nurturing home for them. Brian knew his boys were relying on him for everything, and he took that responsibility seriously. He dedicated his time to being there for them and providing them with all the care and attention they needed. In addition to providing a loving home, Brian also took on a responsibility. He made sure the house was organized and running smoothly on New Year's Eve. 2022, Anna and Brian's close friend arrived at their home at 8:30 p.m. To celebrate the holiday, Anna greeted the friend at the door, happily and in good spirits, as Brian cooked dinner in the kitchen. Throughout the night, the trio engaged in various activities, including taking photos and making plans for the future. The friend left at 1:30 a.m., and at that time, nothing seemed wrong at the Walsh household. Later on New Year's Day, the friend texted Anna and Brian to thank them for the fun night. However, Anna never responded, and only Brian wrote back. Considering her usual promptness, it seemed odd that Anna would not reply, but her friend thought nothing of it. Anna had a flight booked on January 3rd from Logan International Airport to Washington, D.C., but on January 4th, her superiors at Tishman Speyer and her husband Brian reported her missing when the detectives investigating Anna's disappearance spoke to her husband Brian. He explained that on January 1st, 2022, Anna left their house early to get a flight from Logan International Airport to Washington, D.C. Due to a work emergency, Brian stated that Anna took a rideshare service to the airport, but he was asleep when she left. However, the detectives could not confirm that Anna had called an Uber Orite or had gotten on a flight on January 1st. Additionally, her credit card and debit cards had not been used. The detectives asked their counterparts in Washington, D.C. to check Anna's residence in their city to see if she was there, but they could find no sign of her. A search began in a wooded area near her Cohasset home. Crime scene investigators equipped with canine units combed through the Walsh's property and adjacent land in search of clues. In addition to the local police departments, state and regional police departments were deployed to assist in the search and rescue efforts. Over 50 officers were actively involved in the search, utilizing their expertise and resources to locate any signs of Anna. Divers were also involved in the investigation, searching the area's streams for potential leads. Unfortunately, their efforts yielded no sign of Anna, despite extensive efforts. There was no indication as to where she may have gone. 6 days after Anna vanished, a local police detective received a ransom note demanding $127,000. The email from Richard Walker, 9984@gmail.com at 5:18 p.m., stated, "We have the son named Anna Walsh. Here we had a deal for $127,000, but she messed up. We have her here with us, and if she doesn't pay the money, then she'll never be back. We know that the FBI and police are involved. Good luck finding us." However, the ransom note failed to provide any instructions regarding how the police were to respond or meet the requirements as the investigation into Anna's disappearance continued. The detectives working on her case uncovered several intriguing details about her husband Brian. In the early 2000s, Brian approached his parents about a real estate deal involving an old dilapidated home in Lenox. Brian proposed that his father would pay for the renovations and he would split the profit with him when he sold the property. However, things took a turn when Brian's father invested significant money into the renovations. The renovation project ended up costing Brian's father around $500,000 on the night of the closing. When Brian was supposed to repay his father for his investment, he suddenly disappeared without contacting his family. This incident left Brian's father feeling betrayed, leading to estrangement between them. Furthermore, the detectives learned that in 2019, following the death of Brian's father, he attempted to sell his father's home, even though he was disinherited from the will. Additionally, Brian was accused of writing $30,000 in bad checks. However, the most disturbing information the detectives discovered occurred in 2014, when Anna and Brian were engaged. Anna had called the police and informed them that Brian had threatened to kill her over the phone. However, the case was dropped after Anna stopped cooperating with the authorities. The detectives managed to speak to Anna's mother, who was overseas at the time. According to Anna's mother, Anna begged her to come to the United States the last time they spoke. Anna's mother stated that she had a feeling that something bad was going on with being missing, and coupled with Brian's threats and legal troubles, Brian emerged as the prime suspect in his wife's disappearance. The detectives discovered that in the days before Anna went missing, Brian had his mother hire a private investigator to track Anna's movements. This decision was made after Brian lost contact with her for 24 hours while she was in Washington, D.C. Brian had become suspicious, convinced that she was cheating on him. Brian spent his days closely monitoring Anna's Instagram and Facebook accounts while she was in D.C. searching for any clues that might indicate she was cheating on him. His suspicions had been growing for some time, and this investigation was only intensifying his doubts. During the investigation into Anna's disappearance, the detectives made a crucial discovery. They learned that Anna had been in a romantic relationship with a man based in Washington, D.C. When detectives contacted the man in question, he assured them that his relationship with Anna was open and honest. They had even spent Christmas Eve together based on the man's alibi. He was quickly ruled out as a suspect in Anna's disappearance. Despite this, the fact that Anna was having an affair and that Brian knew about it created a motive for him to have been involved in her disappearance on January 9th. Brian Walsh was arrested from misleading the police during the investigation. His 3 sons who were previously under his care were placed in the custody of the DCFS Department of Child Family Services. After Brian's arrest for misleading the police, he pleaded not guilty. Brian misled the police by providing false information during questioning on New Year's Day. He told the detectives that he left his home at 3 p.m. to visit his mother but got lost because he forgot to take his cell phone. However, upon further investigation, it was discovered that Brian's story did not align with the evidence collected. Detectives received security camera footage from the Whole Foods and CVS, the stores he claimed he stopped at. During his alleged journey, upon reviewing the footage, there was no sign of Brian. Furthermore, he was unable to provide any receipts for the items he said he had purchased there. As a result, detectives were suspicious and thoroughly searched Brian's residence in Cassett, Massachusetts, in the basement of the Walsh residence. Investigators discovered a damaged, bloody knife. This discovery prompted them to take the knife for evidence, testing it at the crime lab. The crime scene investigators carried out an extensive search of Anna and Brian's home, confiscating the couple's and their children's electronic devices. Anna and Brian's sons' iPads were thoroughly examined among the C's. Evidence gathered throughout the legal process. This discovery process allows the new attorney to familiarize themselves with the case, identify potential weaknesses, and develop an effective defense strategy. In Brian's case, the discovery review process has proven particularly challenging with over 1,000 pages of discovery. To review, Larry Tipton was faced with a significant task in January 2023. A psychotherapist named Dr. Robbie Ludwig spoke to NewsNation and offered a speculative opinion on the situation involving Anna Walsh and her marriage. According to Dr. Ludwig, she believed that Anna may have been in an abusive relationship in danger. Dr. Ludwig's based on her own experiences and opinions, as she neither knew or treated either Anna nor her husband Brian Walsh. While on News Nation, Dr. Ludwig suggested that there may have been underlying dynamics in the relationship between Anna and Brian Walsh. She speculated that Brian may have been intimidated by his wife's financial success and not financially bringing home money. This insecurity, according to Dr. Ludwig, could have exacerbated any mental health issues Brian already faced, such as depression, anxiety, and rage. Dr. Ludwig's theory revolved around the idea that Brian may have felt at risk of losing everything he had, including his wife and their 3 sons, a luxurious home and pride. During that same segment on News Nation, a picture of Anna was broadcast and she posted it on Instagram before her disappearance. The image was a selfie that showed Anna with a wound about her eye, and the caption read, "Mild concussion, bruised lip, and a cut." Genre: vulnerability. However, there is no evidence to suggest that Brian had anything to do with the wound on Anna. Anna Walsh's friends and family are deeply concerned about laying her to rest properly, as they believe she deserves a proper funeral. Unfortunately, they lack the necessary resources and the prime suspect in her disappearance. Her husband Brian is not speaking as a result. They are unable to carry out the necessary arrangements until they solve the mystery surrounding her murder. Formal funeral arrangements for Anna have not been made. Story 6: Peter Chadwick, born in England to an affluent family, lived a comfortable and PR-privileged life. His father, a successful real estate investor, enjoyed a multi-billion-dollar income. Provided Peter with the best education from an early age, he attended prestigious schools and received a solid academic foundation. When Peter reached his teenage years, his family relocated to the United States of America, settling in the state of Pennsylvania. He attended high school in Bryn Mawr. After high school, Peter pursued higher education at Arizona State University. During this period, he met Q Lim, known to most as QC. QC came from a Malaysian family with vast wealth and connections. She was the younger sister of a prominent businesswoman who owned the largest latex glove manufacturer in the country. Despite their opposite personalities, Peter and QC hit it off instantly, while Peter was reserved and socially awkward. QC was known for outgoing nature and quick wit. Their differences initially attracted them to each other, and they continued to date through their college years. Peter's acquaintances described him as being notoriously difficult to get to know. On the other hand, QC was known for her charismatic and engaging personality. She was the life of the party and always made people around her laugh. Her intelligence combined with her infectious charm made her a magnetic force. Within her social circles, eventually Peter and QC tied the knot and settled in Newport Beach, California. This picturesque location was home to millionaires whose lavish mansions line the streets. Peter and QC fit right in driving luxury cars and wearing designer clothes. They lived in the lap of luxury, surrounded by others who shared a similar lifestyle. While Peter managed his father's properties, he remained home a lot while QC stayed at home and cared for the house and their growing family. Being a dedicated and driven parent, QC ensured that her 3 sons had the best life had to offer. She believed in the importance of a well-rounded education and pushed them to study hard and achieve high grades. Additionally, she encouraged them to participate in extracurricular activities and sports, teaching them the value of teamwork and physical fitness. QC wanted her sons to have a global perspective by exposing them to different cultures and languages. She hoped that they would develop a broader understanding of the world she believed in, the value of travel, and she took her sons on frequent trips to broaden their horizons, from visiting ancient ruins to experiencing different cultures. QC believed that travel was a valuable learning experience that would shape her sons into well-rounded young men despite their wealth and success. The Chadwick family remained private and low-key. They preferred to keep to themselves, preferring to focus on their family and close-knit relationships. However, everyone knew QC and Peter, and they would often be seen picking up their sons from the bus stop at the end of the day on Wednesday, October 10th, 2012, on a bright and sunny 70-degree day in California. QC and Peter's 2 youngest sons got off the school bus expecting to see one of their parents. However, neither parent was at the bus stop. One of QC and Peter's neighbors witnessed the boys standing alone at the bus stop past 4 p.m., knowing right away that something was wrong. It was unlike either QC or Peter to leave their children. Stranded, the neighbor picked up the boys and drove them home. However, when she got to the door, there was no answer. Although Peter's car was not in the driveway, QC's car was present upon arriving at the Chadwick residence. The neighbor noticed several packages on the doorstep, indicating that no one had been home all day. Since QC was a stay-at-home parent and Peter worked from home, someone should have been present to collect the deliveries. However, no one seemed to be home. The neighbor became increasingly worried and decided to take action. She brought QC and Peter's youngest sons back to her home, where she notified the police to request a welfare check on the Chadwick residence. The officers investigating the disappearance of QC and Peter Chadwick arrived at the Chadwick in Newport Beach upon their arrival. They thoroughly examined the outside of the residence. They noticed there were no signs of forced entry. After gaining entry, the officers found themselves in the living room, which appeared meticulously clean. The carpet was adorned with very distinct vacuum lines, indicating it had been recently vacuumed. As the officers walked around the house, they saw that it showcased family photos depicting what appeared to be a happy family. Moving on to the kitchen, the officers noticed a meal being prepared but left unfinished. It was as if the person making the meal had vanished into thin air. The utensils and ingredients were scattered, indicating that the dish had been interrupted abruptly. After finding no leads downstairs, the detectives proceeded to climb the stairs of the Chadwick residence. Upon entering the bedroom of QC and Peter, the officers discovered signs of violence. The bathroom floor rug was bunched in the corner of the room. There was a broken vase on the edge of the tub, and blood was evident. This discovery prompted the officers to declare the home a crime scene and promptly call for backup as crime scene investigators arrived at the Chadwick residence. They immediately noticed that a safe in QC and Peter's bedroom had been opened and its contents were missing. This discovery led the detectives to believe that money and important documents were potentially stolen. The empty safe further intensified their suspicion regarding the couple's whereabouts. Without concrete leads, detectives contacted various institutions, including hospitals, jails, and the coroner's office. They conducted a thorough search to see if anyone matching the coup's description had been admitted or taken into custody. However, their efforts yielded no results, raising even more concerns about the fate of QC and Peter on October 11th. 2012, the San Diego Police Department received a distressing phone call from Peter Chadwick. He claimed he was calling from an Arco gas station approximately 100 miles from the Chadwick's residence in Newport Beach. In the call, Peter exhibited erratic behavior and rambled on incoherently. According to Peter, on October 10th, he hired a man, Juan, to give an estimate on a painting job in his home. Peter stated that he had come across one while checking out an apartment complex. He manages as one went upstairs to assess the walls for future painting work. Peter remained downstairs working on his computer while engrossed in his work. Peter suddenly heard his wife, QC, shout his name from in the upstairs master bedroom. Instinctively, he rushed upstairs to find one strangling QC in the bathtub while also holding her. Underwater, panicked and terrified. Peter attempted to intervene, but one pulled out of. Peter stated that an altercation between him and Juan started, but QC was already dead by the time he mentioned this. After QC died, Peter claimed that one coerced him into wrapping the body in a green comforter, and then both of them carried QC's body into the back of Peter's Lexus. He alleged that one forced him to drive around Southern California with QC's body in the back seat. According to Peter, he was pulled over by a patrol officer with the California Highway Patrol, but the patrol officer let him go. Peter said he drove with Juan and Q's body for about 4 miles away from the Mexican border to an Arco gas station. At this gas station, one contacted his friend referred to as Chi. Were heading in the direction of Mexico, where they planned to dismember and dispose of QC's body police officers. Met Peter Chadwick at the Arco station and brought him into the police department for an interview. During the interview, the detectives investigating QC's disappearance noted several concerning details. Firstly, Peter was covered in scratches all over his body, suggesting an altercation had taken place. Additionally, the detectives observed a human bite mark on Peter's forearm, which further raised suspicions when questioned about the alleged events surrounding his wife's disappearance. Peter displayed no emotion. This unusual lack of emotion contributed to the detectives' suspicion. Furthermore, Peter demonstrated no concern for his children throughout the interview. He did not ask about them or express concern for their safety or well-being, which was yet another red flag for the detectives with Peter in custody. The detectives returned to the Chadwick home to continue their investigation. Upon their return, they noticed that the walls had recently been painted. The discovery puzzled the detectives as it contradicted Peter's claim that he had recently recruited Juan for a painting estimate. Why would he have hired someone to perform a paint estimation if the house had recently been painted? This inconsistency raised further doubts about Peter's story and led them to continue their search for evidence to corroborate his claims. The Chadwick family lived in a gated community with a man-guard shack with video surveillance, which provided detectives with valuable footage on the footage from October 10th at 1:30 p.m. The detectives saw Peter Chadwick's SUV leaving the premises. However, they could not determine if either Juan or QC's body was also inside the car. Further investigation revealed additional video footage of Peter's vehicle going through a toll booth on a freeway. The footage suggested that there was only one person inside the car. This discrepancy with Peter's original story raised suspicion among the detectives. The detectives then spoke to the California Highway Patrol officer who pulled over Peter Chadwick on October 10th. This officer confirmed that Peter was the only person inside the vehicle. In addition to the video footage, detectives discovered a handwritten letter by QC highlighting Peter's disturbing Google searches. She had come across one of the searches mentioned in the letter was how to torture. When the detectives reviewed the medical records of QC, they discovered that she had been recently diagnosed with sexually transmitted diseases. It was later discovered that Peter was engaging in affairs and was failing to use protection. Consequently, he brought the diseases home to QC. Several of QC's close friends came forward with the information during their investigation. QC's friends revealed that although QC had mentioned the idea of divorce to them, Peter was resistant, according to QC's friends. Peter would never agree to a divorce as it would threaten his financial stability. QC had access to a significant amount of money, And in the event of divorce, Peter would lose access to this wealth. On October 11th, 2012, Peter was arrested and charged with the murder of his wife. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, maintaining his innocence throughout the court proceedings. Peter's attorney contacted detectives 1 week after Peter's arrest. The attorney informed the detectives that Peter was willing to provide the location of Q's body. Peter claimed the location was in South San Diego, specifically Wildcat Canyon. Wildcat Canyon is a mountainside area off the beaten path. Additionally, Peter stated that the body could be found in a dumpster in the area upon receiving this information. The crime scene investigators promptly headed to the specific location upon reaching Wildcat Canyon. They focused on the dumpster Peter had described. Inside the dumpster, they discovered several items belonging to QC. They found her purse identification card and significant cash totaling $220,000. Furthermore, the investigators spotted a green comforter in the dumpster. Upon closer examination, they discovered that it contained arms and legs, leading them to believe that it was part of QC's body. The discovery was disheartening, as it indicated that the detectives had indeed found QC's remains at the medical examiner's office. An autopsy was performed on the body, confirming it to be QC, which revealed that the cause of death was strangulation. Peter Chadwick, despite being charged with a heinous crime of murder, was granted $1 million dual bail by the judge. This decision was made because Peter had no criminal history and ties to the state due to having 3 sons. The conditions imposed on his parole included surrendering his passport, ensuring that he could not leave the country, and prohibiting him from having any contact with QC's family. Establish a connection with a woman named Claudia Soto. The two began spending time together, and their friendship grew stronger. In May 2016, Peter, Claudia, and Claudia's sister embarked on a trip to a concert. Claudia's sister noticed Peter driving erratically during the journey and asked him to slow down instead of complying. Peter continued his reckless driving, leading into an accident. Claudia Soto was killed in the accident, while her sister sustained serious injuries. She was in a coma for 15 days. Meanwhile, Peter walked away with a limp after the tragic accident that resulted in the death of Claudia and the severe injuries of her sister. The district attorney's office contacted the Soto family and asked them to sign a document granting Paul Cook immunity in Claudia's death. The document absolved Paul Cook of all wrongdoing and portrayed him as a good person who was not involved in the incident. Faced with the immense distress caused by Claudia's death and the suffering of her sister, the family agreed to sign the papers without asking questions. However, after settling the initial shock and grief, they realized they had made a huge mistake. Unfortunately, by then it was too late. Peter Chadwick, the main suspect in the case, had fled once again. As the search continued, the U.S. Marshals learned of Peter's presence in Valde Bravo. Valde Bravo is a small and charming town in the Mexican state of Puebla. It is known for its picturesque scenery, crystal-clear lakes, and lush forests. Peter became frightened after seeing an investigation report broadcast about him 2 hours later. When his iPad stopped working, he was convinced that the marshals had found his location. As a result, Peter hastily left town and headed to Cholula. Cholula is considered one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, with a history that dates back thousands of years. It is known for its rich history, cultural heritage, and the famous Cholula hot sauce. Named after the town is known for its traditional music and dance, which often included colorful costumes and lively performances. In August 2019, the detectives received a tip that assisted the U.S. Marshals in zeroing in on Peter's location within 24 hours. They found Peter and promptly arrested him. He was then extradited to the U.S. to face charges for the murder of his wife. Peter pleaded guilty to the charge, admitting his guilt. The judge presiding over the case sentenced Peter to 15 years to life, reflecting the severity of his actions as the rain gently falls and the night grows deeper. Thank you for joining me here at Sherlock Holmes. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the importance of staying aware, even as we seek comfort in the quiet of the night. If you've enjoyed tonight's tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let the rain carry you to a peaceful sleep, and until we meet again, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night watch over you.